without further ado, we're just going to jump into today's topic. This is usually a pretty popular one. Um, we're talking about aging in place. Housing matters, and don't we know it? Aging in place is really a politically correct term that was coined by sociologists and healthcare professionals. But what do we say? We say we're staying put. We're staying put. Or I hear a lot of we're going out feet first. You know, there's various versions of that. But the term was first used in 1961 to describe older people who wanted to remain, actually who were remaining in more rural areas. And it started becoming more widely used in the 1970s. And the term has come to refer to the desire or ability to live independently in one's home and community for as long as possible. The U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention defines aging in place as the ability to live in one's home safely, independently, and comfortably, regardless of age, income, or ability level. I think that's important. Most adults, as we know, would prefer to age in place. That is, stay put, right? They want to remain in their home of choice for as long as possible. In fact, 90% of adults over 65 report that they would prefer to stay in their current residence as they age. And 1/3 of American households are home to one or more residents 60 years of age or older. So consider this. In all, 88% of people between ages of 50 and 80 said it was very or somewhat important for them that they live in their homes for as long as possible. But only 15% said that they'd given a lot of consideration as to how their home may need to be modified as they age, while 47% had given it little or no thought at all. So you can see why maybe you're in good company, and we wanted to talk about this today. So there's further definitions of aging in place based on level of need, right? There's aging in place without any urgent needs at all. There's aging in place with progressive condition-based needs, maybe chronic or progressive conditions that are going to require some modifications down the road. And then there's aging in place with traumatic change needs, right? You're in crisis mode. You can't come home from the hospital after your surgery. You know, something's going on that we need to address immediately. So aging in place is the goal for many older adults and their family members, yet without home modifications and additional support from others, unexpected medical events and declines in health can make it challenging to remain in one's home. So that's really why I chose this topic. So I want to get into introductions of our awesome panelists today, and I'm going to ask each one to introduce themselves, tell us who they are, what they do, how they got into their current positions. And I guess for those of you, maybe for the handful of newbies, I'm Dayna Wilson. I always forget to introduce myself. I'm Dayna Wilson, and I am a seniors real estate specialist, a certified downsizing coach, and real estate agent with Keller Williams Realty locally. And I founded this series of seminars, again, 7.5 years ago. And as long as you keep coming, we'll keep presenting them. So we're going into the new year with a whole nother bunch of topics for you. So let's start with Rob and Eve. And why don't you share who you are and what you do?
This work? Okay. Hi there. I'm Robin Eve Cole. My career is an interior designer, working in the architectural as well as the just design field. I've been deeply involved in a category of aging in place that kind of supersedes it. It's called universal design. I started out in aging in place certification and went on from there to discover that there was an even larger arena which talks about making all homes accessible to people of all ages. As Dayna says, all ages, all abilities, all sizes. It started with my mom because she had Alzheimer's and I had to work on getting her developed into a place that was going to be safe for her. And I did the CAPS certification for a while, adjusting homes so they would work that way. And am I going on too much at this
No,
time
that's
about
fine,
this
but
one?
you mentioned CAPS, and we don't know what CAPS is.
CAPS is Certified Aging in Place Specialist,
Perfect.
which is what we are in some ways for you. And I then went into universal design, which is a deeper study of how to make homes work for everybody. After I was hit by a car right here in Walnut Creek, had both my legs broken, spent 5 months in a wheelchair, realized that my home completely did not work for me, and I started doing a deeper dive into how to make homes accessible.
So you were in that crisis needs
I was in that crisis.
level.
I
Yeah.
thought that my home was pretty well stacked up, but it did not. So, yeah, I look at people at all different ends of the spectrum that Dayna was speaking of, people who are thinking about it, people who are really beginning to see changes in their own lives. And this is the time that people really should be addressing the needs for aging in place.
Right. And I mean, this is a very important topic to my family and myself because my mother ended up in a wheelchair in her last few years. So we had to really incorporate quite a lot of home modifications so that she could age in place at our home. So, David, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name is David Benet. I am the volunteer coordinator for Mobility Matters. And basically, how I got here, let's see, 8 years ago, I was traveling to Peru going to see Machu Picchu. And I met a lovely woman who then 2 years later became my wife, and she lived up here. So I moved to Northern California. And 6 years ago, I found, well, when I moved here, I was like, oh, I need a job. And I've always done or I've always been a volunteer. I'm in Rotary, I'm in Kiwanis, and I used to live in Southern California as in disaster services with the Red Cross. And working for Mobility Matters was an easy fit for me because I love helping people, and that's what we do at Mobility Matters. This year, we actually got 2024 California Nonprofit of the Year for Rebecca Bauer Cajon's district that we're very proud of. Went to Sacramento to get the award. And basically, what Mobility Matters does is we give free rides to seniors and veterans who need escorted one-on-one help. And it's just a great opportunity for me to be able to help other people. And I really love my role as volunteer coordinator.
That's awesome. Jill.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jill Finn. I'm a residential design specialist, and I'm based out of Walnut Creek area. My company is Tangerine Design. I'm originally from the East Coast, and I actually started out in advertising before I got involved in architecture. And back east, I worked exclusively on commercial and public housing, and that has a lot to do with ADA, which is Americans with Disabilities Act, which is something that we borrow from in order to do age in place with ramps and guardrails and things like that. And for me personally, I'm very spatially inclined, so I can sort of see things as I talk to clients and homeowners about their space. I can visualize what they're trying to do and keep things in my head about if we've moved something from one location to the other, which can be very helpful when we're talking about doing some changes and modifications to homes.
Awesome. Thank you. Jonathan.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jonathan Mendoza, and a little bit about me. I have been working with seniors for the last 12 years, and no, I'm not that old. Working in home care and care management. My previous background was in retirement communities. I work in a retirement communities, well, 2 or 3 about, for 5 years. Then I moved into home care. Currently, I am the assistant area director with Arosa Home Care and Care Management. And what we do is basically we provide in-home care as well as care management.
And you should recognize this gentleman because he is one of our wonderful, awesome education partners that help support this series. So without our education partners, we could not continue this free of charge for you. And which education partners are here today? If you would stand up. All right, we've got Nancy Hairsign, our financial advisor. We've got Martha Eccles, Mutual of Omaha Reverse Lending. I can't see you guys back there. I think I see, well, Annie is with Arosa. We've got Athena with Kisco, which is the Kensington and Byron Park. Who am I missing? It's really dark back there. Kim, I can't even see you. I'm listening. And Kim Falahati is Family Matters, right? Movers, haulers, estate sales, extremely important, and we use them a lot. So thank you guys for being here, and thank you for supporting the series. And I think we're going to see, all of you back next year, which is awesome. And we'll have some new ones as well. So thank you for that. But I wanted to make sure that I recognized them. Okay, so let's jump into some of these questions today. Okay, Jill, you meet with people all the time who say they want to stay put, and maybe define what this aging in place term means first, and then what does it mean for you?
Okay. So, aging in place, we're familiar with downsizing, which can include reducing the size of your home, possibly going from a 2-story home to a single-story home, reducing exterior maintenance, things like that. And age in place is really just the next step. So, age in place is the term that is used to for accommodations to your existing home or surroundings to enjoy living in your private home longer. The physical changes can include ramps, widening doorway openings, bathroom, kitchen modifications, technology, transportation adjustments, and having in-home caregivers and more. And ultimately, it's the ability to extend living in your home as long as possible. For me personally, age in place and the benefits have more to do with the mental and emotional parts of it, because you have cultivated a community around you and you want to remain there. You want to be in your comfortable space. The physical changes, which is what I do work on in a home, is more to be considered the tool. It's a tool to enable you to stay in that comfortable place.
Nice, that's well put. Robin Eve, do you have a twist on the same question? Oh, can't hear you.
Jill really hit on some issues that are dear to me also. I think that you're absolutely right about the fact that so much of it has to do with emotional and that whole thought about inclusion and what that means to us, diversity, inclusion. As we age, that's definitely an area that we all want to continue to expand. For me, aging in place melts into universal design. And again, universal design was a term that was developed in Europe. Also, it's called design for all, so that people of all ages can use the same space. So the opportunity early on when somebody is considering a remodel or moving into a new space, even if it's a downsizing, is to be able to go through a house and look at all the different features that might actually become obstacles in the future if their use, if their ability, if their accessibility changes. So for example, when I was in a wheelchair, I discovered that wheelchairs are 27 inches wide and my doorways were 28 inches wide. So needless to say, I was smashing myself into the doorway an awful lot. So simple things like considering the size of the doorways, considering pocket doors so that you have those extra 2 inches when the door opens, as opposed to having that ledge that opens up when you have that. Considering the heights of countertops, variable heights, giving yourself an opportunity to always have a place to sit. Countertops could be a fine height for one person, but not the right height for another, and even more so, the heights of cabinets. I have a client, he's 6'3", she's 5'1". Needless to say, they can't see the same things at the same place on the cabinet. So how do you make those kinds of adaptations? Even if they're perfectly healthy and they're perfectly strong right now, thinking ahead to how everybody will be able to use this space.
Well, you went right into my next question, which is awesome. You already answered what is universal design. I know there's a couple I mean, the obvious things we always hear about is grab bars and ramps, right? We hear that all the time. There's actually companies, that's all they do, install grab bars and ramps, because that's something that a lot of us are going to need or are needing now. But what about rugs and handles? Talk
Right,
about.
absolutely. And I just should say something. Both Jill and I, as interior designers, the beauty of a home means everything. And that's the biggest resistance that we do get. People say, I don't want my house to look like a hospital. This is my home and I want it to look gracious. And so our job is always to hide any kind of adaptations that we're doing. And there are just so many wonderful products out there. So things to consider, for example, grab bars are your friends. I believe that every single house and every single bathroom at all times should have grab bars. That should be standard. It's a toilet and a grab bar. You've got all these different things. And grab bars have been developed so that they're very beautiful. They look like towel rods, In the shower, you can hang your washcloth on them, and they just look like they're meant to hold things, but they save lives. They save children's lives. In a bathtub, if you have it well positioned, children don't fall. They're able to stand up. I had a friend who was 48 years old. He stepped on a bar of soap in the shower. He went flying. He grabbed onto the shower curtain and the something else that was like holding up his soap, and they all came down. He tore his shoulder. There's just no reason to not have something stable in the most dangerous part of your house, which is the bathroom, which is wet, hard surfaces. Um, so thinking of those kinds of things, first and foremost, I'd say that'd be the first thing that anybody would do is go find some beautiful grab bars and have those installed properly. When it comes to issues, I know I've got a little bit of arthritis in my wrist. So the kinds of pulls that I want on my drawers are the kind that are like a cup pull. Something makes it really easy. I don't have to do this kind of twist. Also for the door handles, you want to have something that you could open up as a lever, even open it up with your elbow if you've got your hands full. Just going through the house, area by area, what is the thing that is going to not challenge you as your body changes?
Yeah. My husband and I are actually building a cabin right now in northern Idaho, up on the Canadian border. A lot of you that know me know that we started this endeavor, and we are using universal design concepts. And I think the contractors in northern Idaho, they don't know what I'm talking about. But I want to be able to go there in my 70s and 80s and 90s. We have a lot of longevity in our family. So it's good stuff. Good stuff. And yeah, well, we can talk more about things that we can do too. Yeah. Okay. Jill. Well, one last question, Rob and Eve. Are most of the people you talk to in the planning stage or the crisis stage? I'm just curious.
They're in the planning stage
Oh, good.
because I talk to them a lot.
Good.
I say, now is the time. I tell them about my story. I was in the crisis stage when I finally had to have things done, and they were not the most attractive, and they were not the least expensive, and they were not the most incorporated because I just had to be able to maneuver in my house. So it makes so much sense. It's an investment that pays itself back in all ways. And I might say, as an older person, investing in my home and making it a place that works well for me adds value to it. And a young family with young children coming along and purchasing my home will already see the advantages and the safety features that are involved in it.
And this past year, 17% of people that bought homes were buying for multi-generational families. So that is even more important. And I think we're just going to continue to see that more and more, right? We're living with our moms and dads and grandparents, and kids are coming back from college and they don't ever leave. So anyway, or you want the in-home daycare kind of thing. Okay, Jill, so let's jump to you and say, I want to ask, how do you find, or what do you look for when you're looking for a remodeler, a contractor to do some of this work what does that entail? And then we've got a couple other bullet points I'll have you address as well.
Okay, so let me address a few of these things here. So, first and foremost, homeowners need to start with a professional designer, which can be a licensed architect or an unlicensed designer. Most homeowners are unaware that most residential projects do not require an architect, which is something that can save you a lot of money. However, the designer still needs to know building code. They need to know the proper requirements. So it's not just someone that's a decorator. A decorator is more pillows and drapery, but someone that actually knows the building parts of the project. And when meeting with a designer, homeowners should be learning something from them so that it's not just a sales pitch. Okay, there's a lot of people out there just doing a sales pitch. Once I talk to you and you hire me, then I'll tell you a lot of other things. My philosophy is more, you should be learning something right from the start about your project. Not necessarily about me, but about the project. And then for hiring a contractor, this really should be done after homeowners have a design that they can show to a contractor. Too often I come across people that have said, oh, I've already hired my contractor. Well, here's the problem. If you've already hired your contractor, what is the price going to be? It's going to be whatever they tell you the price is going to be. So you need to be able to show contractors, this is what I have, this is what I want, and then you vet that out to different contractors and get them to bid different prices. Let me find out the timing, those kinds of things, so that you're not quote unquote stuck with the person you hired at whatever cost they determine. Again, contractors kind of come towards the end of the design phase. There's a whole design phase that happens first so that you know what you can do or what you cannot do. Whereas contractors, they can build anything. But really we need to know, what are we allowed to build?
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you. Rob and Eve, what if we don't own our own home? Are there things that we could do?
Yeah. Actually, I'm developing an online course that addresses not only things that have to do with the homes that we own, but also people who are in a more temporary situation. I wish I had actually brought the list with me, but there are a lot of things for people who are DIY, do-it-yourselfers, or who want to work with just a handyman with
License.
a license, licensed handyman. There are a lot of things that have to do with, like I mentioned, the cabinets. You can actually place and install shelves that cantilever out and float down to your level. So I've got those in a lot of different kitchens for people who are shorter or who can't reach the back. You all know about putting the lazy Susans and everything under the under cabinets, changing the doorknobs so that they are accessible, easy for your hands, easy to access, as well as the drawer pulls. I think lighting has a lot to do with it. Many times, the biggest issue that we're always concerned about are falls. And the first layer of that is making sure that you have good lighting, multiple level lighting, that's task lighting, flood lighting, things that are decorative, but also that'll give you the appropriate amount of light at every area. Steps are very critical, and if they're not well lit and properly lit, you can miss an edge on a step, so you can tape up the edge, you can put contrast on any places that your eye might not be able to distinguish. As we age, our eyes change, things become harder to distinguish, things look a little bit darker. So that's one reason that lighting and contrast should be brought forward at all times.
And I don't know if you mentioned, but this is like, to me, a no-brainer, but when I go to people's homes for consultations, I'm always shocked. They may be using a walker or a cane, and there's area rugs everywhere. and I watch people almost trip in their own home in front of me, and that is just something that doesn't need to happen.
Yeah, flooring is a very big issue all around. You notice a lot of people are changing over from tile, hard tile, to designer vinyl plank or designer vinyl tile because it's a little bit softer and it has a little bit more of a grip. So I would say critically having a floor that's grippy as opposed to something that's got a high polish would be the first thing for you to look at. And even if you've got marble in your beautiful entry, that can be treated in such a way that it's got more grip to it. Anytime that you can avoid a rug, it should be something, if you're going to have a rug at all, it should be low pile and it should have a very high grip mat underneath it. But the particular problems are the edges, as Dana pointed out, so you don't want something that's going to flip up at the edge. Removing as many throw rugs as possible is the best solution, and that's one reason that changing the flooring so that the floor doesn't feel so cold, so as in tile, moving on to something like a designer vinyl plank or wood is going to reduce the need for those. And for the rugs that you do have, area rugs as well as wall to wall, you want it to be a very low, very tight pile. The plush high pile is the one that is the least stable, and consider that especially on staircases. Although you want to have a carpeting on a stair, it should be a very low, tight pile.
Yeah, perfect. We actually had to rip my mom's wall-to-wall carpeting out entirely when she was in a wheelchair because you can't push a wheelchair on nice, thick, cushy carpet. It just didn't work. So that was too bad, but you got to do what you got to do. So sometimes people find themselves, even if you've done modifications and such, another issue with aging in place is transportation, right? At some point, most of us might find ourselves either temporarily or permanently unable to drive. So getting to the store, the doctor's offices, or getting out to just see family and friends, socialize, your activities that you love to do, becomes very challenging. So I want David to kind of tell us a little bit more about Mobility Matters. How did it originate? How does it work? And then we'll get into what some other options are for local transportation. I think this is important too, so.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
So Mobility Matters actually started before I was born in 1976. But it wasn't called Mobility Matters. It was Contact Care Helpline. Then it transitioned to Senior Helpline. And in 2005, my current CEO, Elaine Welsh, came along and said, well, this is nice that people are calling in with their problems and we're trying to figure out how to solve them. But the two biggest problems for seniors that they were calling us about is housing and transportation. So Elaine said, you know what? I'm going to try to tackle one of these issues. And we went ahead and we're tackling transportation. That's one of the things that we do. For us, our mission really is to provide free escorted rides to seniors and veterans with compassionate volunteer drivers. And the way how it works is our members, they have to qualify to become members, and we do an in-home visit, make sure that they do qualify. And once they qualify to become members, then they call in for rides. They can call in once a week, Monday and Tuesday for the following week for rides. And one of the things is we only have 200 volunteers. Now you think, oh, that's a lot of volunteers, 200 volunteers. We cover the whole county. So we cover all of Contra Costa County. 200 volunteers is not a ton of volunteers. If I had 1,000 volunteers, I'd be looking for 2,000 volunteers. Because the more volunteers we have, the more rides we can do. And for people who are eligible, it's not eligible for every senior. We don't just because you're a senior, you're not necessarily eligible. We require our seniors in our program, they must need escorted rides. What does that mean? That means you must need a physical escort. You might need help going from your door to the car and help getting into the car. So what we do is just like if you had your own parents, we pick them up at the door, we escort them to their car. We take them grocery shopping. We grocery shop with them. We help them back into the car. We take them to a medical appointment. We wait for them to get done. And then we drive them back to their house and walk them to the door. It's a door-through-door service. That is what our program really is about. And I'll tell you, kind of, my first ride I ever took was actually for a woman who was 102 years old. She lived right here in Walnut Creek. She lived on the third story of her apartment building. And I was amazed. I'm like, how do you live? This woman was blind as a bat, sharp as a tack. She used to work for the Brooklyn School District. She even had a walking cane, like the white ones with the red thing on the bottom. So she was literally blind. And I'm like, how do you do this? And she's like, well, what do you mean? I live on my own. I've been here 25 years. This is where I live. I can cook, I can clean. I don't need anyone's help. Inside her apartment, she lived just fine. Outside of her apartment, she needed a little extra assistance. And she goes, basically, I just need you to take me to my medical appointments. My neighbor right next door, she takes me and we go get our hair done. And my young neighbor, he took me clubbing in the Mission District last month.
Oh,
And I was amazed because I was like, wow, I don't even go clubbing in the Mission District. And he said, oh yeah, he's a young thing. He helps me out sometimes. And I'm like, how young is this guy taking you clubbing in the Mission District? And he's like, oh, he's a young thing. He's 65 years old. So when you're 102,
it's all relative.
it's all relative. And, this is what our mission is. We're here to help people age in place. And she didn't need to go to a home. She didn't need anyone to take care of her. She took care of herself just fine. And our goal is to help them age in place for as long as they want to, or as long as they can. But you know what? If you can't go get your own groceries, and if you can't go to your medical appointments, you can't live on your own.
Yeah.
So that's where our transportation comes in.
So because there are some limitations to the services that you guys offer, and some of it might just be the number of vans or volunteers, right? What are some alternative solutions that people might be able to think about if they need a ride somewhere?
So first of all, I want to tell you, our program is all volunteers. So they're using their own vehicles. We can't take wheelchairs because we're using our own vehicles, and not all vehicles are wheelchair savvy. And so it's 200 volunteers using their own cars. It's a neighbors helping out neighbors program. And I also want to tell you about who else is eligible before I go into
Perfect.
other ways. We also have something we like to call our temporary members. These are people who usually could drive themselves to an appointment. These are people like yourselves that drove here, but guess what? You have a colonoscopy. You have a spinal injection. You have a one-time surgery, like a daytime procedure, and they won't let you drive home. You can drive there, but once you get put under, you can't drive back, and you need someone to escort you. We also do that. So we call those people temporary members, where it's just a one-time thing, and we go out and help you out that one time. And then, hey, if you can volunteer for us later, that's even better. Not everybody qualifies for us. And there are a number of programs depending on where you live. In La Miranda, you have the Spirit Van. In Orinda, you have Orinda Around Town, or Seniors Around Town, sorry. Here in Walnut Creek, if you are a member of the Senior Center, you can get vouchers for, I think it's 10 rides a month. You pay $5 for the ride, and they pay 10. So it's basically 5 round-trip rides a month with the Senior Center, and it's Lyft rides. So you have to know how to use Lyft. But they also have one where you can call in. And in Pleasant Hill, they have the Pleasant Hill van. And in Concord, they have, if you're part of their Senior Center in Concord, you can also get Script for Lyft rides. So you pay $30, they give you $30 of Lyft rides. So it's half off. So these are all different programs. And what we do is we have this book, it's out on the table, and all you have to do is go through this book, pick the city you're in, and it'll tell you all the different transportation options for that city. I don't have enough time to go over every single option, but if you just pick the city you're in, and you can, in the blue section, and it'll tell you all the different options. And then if you have questions about any of these, we're right here on the back. You can always give us a call and say, hey, I want to see if I qualify for Mobility Matters. And we'll tell you if you do or do not qualify. And if you don't qualify for us, we'll refer you to someone you do qualify for. Last year, we referred 6,000 people to other resources. And this year, we even got, we partnered with the the County Crisis Center. And they're giving us vouchers for people who can use Lyft but can't afford it. And for emergency purposes, people can call us and we can give them a Lyft voucher now. This is a temporary program. Hopefully it gets renewed, but until the funds, when the funds run out, hopefully it gets renewed, but we don't know yet. So
That's awesome. So, are you looking for volunteers? And because that is a way to age successfully, right? Is staying engaged with your community, with other people, and a great way to do that is to volunteer. So, what would we need to do if we wanted to volunteer?
So basically, just take our brochure, give me a call. Our drivers have to be 25 to 75 years old. Just because insurance purposes, we can't go older than 75 years old because we can't afford it for the insurance. But you have to be, pass a background check. But really, this is a neighbors helping out neighbors program. That's all it is. So you'd be taking rides to help out your neighbors. If you're here in Walnut Creek, you're going to stay here in Walnut Creek. We don't ask you to go to Brentwood, or San Ramon. It's right around your neighborhood, and it's just getting to know your neighbors.
That's awesome. I know my mom was lucky enough to use Mobility Matters a couple times, and we ended up knowing both of the drivers from the community. One used to be the veterinarian in Moraga that everybody brought their dogs to, and it was fun. Super nice people. Well, so another portion or another thing to think about when you want to stay put, and by the way, staying put might not be your current home. I mean, you might want to age in place, and the tri-level you live in with the pool and the large lot is just too much. But aging in place could be a townhome, a one-level townhome, or a condo, or a one-level home. I mean, there's other versions of aging in place, right? So kind of keep that in mind, keep an open mind there. But another thing that we find ourselves needing often is some assistance, some care assistance. So I want Jonathan, I've got a bunch of questions for him. First of all, to talk about the difference between in-home care and home health, because those two get thrown around a lot, and set us straight.
Of course. So those are two type of services that are easily confused by people, especially when you are coming out of the hospital. Your physician, your nurses may say, okay, you're going home, but you will need care. A lot of the time they say you need home health, and that is most of the time confused by you. Like, what is home care? What is home health? So a way to understand the two type of services is home care is basically non-medical services, okay? And home health is a skill care, meaning that it's a nurse or a therapist that will be providing the care. For the home care, most of the time is privately paid. It'll have to be, or a long-term care insurance can cover that. For home health, it's covered by the insurance, but it has to be prescribed by your physician in order to receive the home health. And basically, the home care is what I was saying, is the people that comes to your home and help you with your personal care. A home health is a professional nurse that will be helping you with whatever that you need medically as medical assistance, but will not be providing personal care. That's one of the things that a lot of people get confused. Okay, so if I'm going to have home health coming to my place, they might be able to help me with, taking a shower, right? But then a nurse is not going to do that for you. So that's something that a lot of people gets confused all the time because they think that once you are basically assigned a home health agency, they will be covering all, and they are two different type of services.
Right. And then, but then on the other end, hospice, if hospice gets involved, they will help with some of those things.
Correct, correct, which is also different
Right.
than home health.
Right.
Hospice and home health, they may go along, although there are different services for which you will need a prescription from your physician. And home care is basically any time that you decide you need assistance, you can just get in touch with an agency that may provide home care services.
Right. What do you look for? Like, how does someone know, or what should we be thinking about, especially maybe while we see relatives over the holidays that we haven't seen for a while? We might start noticing some things. When might someone want to start thinking about possibly bringing in some in-home care?
That's a really good question. A lot of the issues that we see out in the field with our senior population is most of the time they are in denial, right? I don't need service. I'm okay by myself, right? That's a very most of the time they're saying I don't need anyone at home. I'm able to handle it by myself, even though it's taking you 3 hours to take a shower. So I guess one of the things that we always suggest to our clients is to start getting somebody into your place to assist you with the things that you are having issues with. Normally, that is your regular routine, your morning routine per se. Like when you get off bed, you take a shower, you prep your breakfast and all of that. So if that routine is becoming challenging for our seniors, that's when we suggest, okay, that's the time for you to start looking into some help because you're able to manage some, but you might be able to do stuff that that is challenge you in a different way with the support of somebody. And the way we see it is that you are hiding care not because you need it, it's because of your own safe.
Perfect. So, what about like security risks? Like, how do we know that the people coming into our homes are good people?
Correct. So that's it's going to be a very large answer to that. There are two different type of services. And when it comes to hiring help, you'll need to, one is looking at agencies that are licensed. Let's talk about that. If you hire a home care agency per se that is licensed, they are regulated by the state. Therefore, they need to go through some screening and background check when they are hiring the caregivers. So that's very important. Make sure that you are hiring a licensed agency. And then the agencies are they're enforced by the states to go through background checks. Most of the agencies, they only do background checks, but there are some others that they also do drug testing before they hire the caregivers. The caregivers as well, to become a caregiver, they have to register with the state. We call it a registry, and that is similar to what the nurses have in order to perform as a nurses. So the caregivers are the same. The registry is basically something that is a permit, a work permit, that is linked with their background. So if something comes up in their background, the state will stop them from helping the senior population. So that is something that is very important for you to know, that all the caregivers must be registered with the state and have a registry, and therefore they need to have a clear background.
And what could someone expect to pay for this type of service? And, is it cheaper to hire your friend's cousin to come in? And what are the pros and cons to that?
Of course. So it is definitely cheaper to hire somebody privately, but there is a pros and cons to that. One is it's cheaper for you,
Yeah.
and the negative part of that is that when you hire somebody privately, you become the employer. Therefore, you are liable for that caregiver, for that employee of yours. Let's say that this person injured her back while helping you. She basically, since you are the employer, you're liable for that. So the caregiver can say, I'm not able to work because I was working with you, and they can come, legally, they can come after you because you are the employee, the employer. It is more expensive when you hire through an agency. One is because of the agency basically will cover the cost of the licensing, they cover the workers' compensation for their employees, but there is no liability for you as a client. You're paying $15, $20 more than hiring private, but there is no liability for you as a client because the agency will be taking all of that. Prices ranges right now in the Walnut Creek area are anywhere for agencies are anywhere between $38 to $45 an hour. That's most of the agencies are charging for care. They do have a minimum. Depending on the agency, they also have a minimum. Some may have an hour, some others may have two. Most of the regular agencies, they do have a 4 hours minimum. And the others may have a weekly minimum as well.
Well, and I will point out one other issue with hiring privately. So let's say you hire your friend's cousin, and she's lovely, and she used to help another friend of yours at home, and so you feel like you know her. Well, guess what? She might be a lovely person. What if she gets sick? Who is going to come that day and make your food? Who's going to help you get ready in the shower? Who's going to drive you to the grocery store? There's no backup. So she gets sick, or she goes into the hospital, or she has to go out of town to see her family. You're stuck. You have nobody. Where an agency, if your regular person, Susie, gets ill, because we are only human, then they will send somebody else, and you're not kind of left high and dry. So something else to think about.
That's correct.
That was sort of important because that happened to our family. Okay, what kind of are you able to match up personalities with people? Because we all like different types of people. I mean, how do you go about doing that?
So when you decide to go into that phase of hiring somebody to help you at home, right? A lot of the times, seniors may focus on the skill part of a caregiver, which is very important. It's very important that the caregivers knows how to provide care, how to help you, how to prepare a meal, how to give you a shower, and all of that. But it's a bigger part of hiring a caregiver for your needs, for the senior's need, is looking at the caregiver's personality. Remember that this person is going to be spending time with that ex-senior either throughout the whole day or sometimes the entire day. And if that person is not somebody that you enjoy being with, becomes very difficult for the caregiver as well as for you. One is trust is very important. It's very important that you know that you trust this person that you are hiding. And when we go out in the field and we meet with our clients, one of the things that I always recommend is, okay, we need somebody to have X skills for the type of care that you need. But rather than that, focus on the personality. Because if you are hiring a caregiver through an agency, there is more people behind the caregiver. There are care managers, there are staffing managers, there are the office managers that may have more experience and can always come and train that caregiver. For example, if you have a caregiver, at Arosa, we do have a lot of caregivers that have been with us for 10 plus years. They do have a lot of experience in helping our seniors, but we also have new caregivers that are working with us while they work towards their nursing certification, things like that. And a client will say, send me a caregiver that has a lot of years of experience. We send that caregiver, but sometimes the personality is, no, I don't like her because she's too bossy. I don't like anyone to come to my place and buzz me around. I understand, it's your home, right? So focus on the personality and make sure that when you are hiring somebody, that there is more people behind the caregiver, because when that caregiver, Nancy, that you enjoy the most, she's the sweetest person in the world, she's caring for you with love, but she doesn't know how to help you with your depends or with your with showering, then you can call the office and say, we'll love so and so. Can the care manager come and provide that extra training? We have done that so many times because we know that it will be easier for that caregiver to learn, gain those skills rather than change the personality, right?
Right.
That's something that we haven't been able to do in our agency yet.
No. I think like any relationship, your girlfriend, your spouse, whoever, communication, right? I saw my mom get irritated with her caregivers once in a while, and I'd say, "Why are you miffed, Mom?" And she said, "Well, you know, Janie didn't do blah, 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 or I don't like the way she did this." I said, "Did you tell her?" "Well, no. She should just know." "Well, that's not how it works." So I said, "Mom, just tell her. She would like to know how you like your eggs in the morning." Or, well, you know, whatever the silly thing was. You have to communicate. You have to know what you want. You can't expect someone else to read your mind. Um, that is a killer for most relationships. So communicate, right?
Correct. Communication and also learning your routine. A lot, you know, I remember years ago I had a client that every time that he got up in the morning at 7 a.m., because this was an early bird, at 7 a.m. he always liked to have a coffee and the newspaper. That was a must for him every morning. And every time if I get a phone call at 8:30 in the morning and say, Jonathan, this happened, I knew because it was because of the caregiver forgot her the newspaper. So learning your routine, having that familiar person with you, and of course giving the caregiver that you're hiring the chance to learn. Because remember that, just like Dayna said, when you hire a caregiver, you are building a new relationship. Caregiver will know your care needs, but will also learn your routine and what you like and dislike. And for this person, having the coffee and the newspaper at 7 a.m. right on the table was very important for him. So those minor details are very important for the caregivers to know. And that's what is also very important, to have somebody in the back, like supporting the caregivers, because just like when Dana said, if your regular caregiver is not able to be with you at the next day, there is somebody in the office that knows your routine that will relay that information to the caregiver that is covering just for that day.
Right.
So that's also very important to highlight when you are deciding to hire a person, whether you go private or you go with an agency. Remember that in an agency, there is a team behind that will support your caregiver.
Right.
With private, you're dealing with somebody, and that's pretty much it.
And training, I think, is important too. So my mom needed somebody, I keep using my mom as my poster child, but my mom needed somebody that knew how to use a Hoyer lift. And they sent somebody that had never seen one of those contraptions before. And that did not give my mom much confidence that day, because she actually, well, we won't say what happened, but anyway, we fixed it, but it was kind of exciting there for a little bit. So what kind of training do caregivers get? Does it differ by company? How does that work?
It is different by company. Basically, the basic training that a caregiver gets is in personal care, because all the services that a caregiver will provide is non-medical. So the training is basically in how to help you with your shower, how to help you with your dressing, how to help you with some meal preparation, and how to help you around the house. That's the type of training that a caregiver gets. With Rosa, the caregivers they get training. Most of the agencies, they do provide training, even though the caregiver may have the experience already, but they do provide the training at the beginning when they are hiring the caregivers, and then on a yearly basis after that. But and we go back to what I was saying before, there are other people in the offices that are providing the extra training that is basically tailored to what the clients need. For example, the Hoyer lift. If we have a client, not everyone uses a Hoyer lift, even though it's very common, but not everyone needs it. If there is a caregiver that has or client, sorry, that has a Hoya lift need or care, the caregiver, if the agency is sending a caregiver that might not be fully familiar with, there is other ways to support this caregiver. For example, in the office team, staffing managers, they might be previous caregivers that were brought into the office to serve as a staffing manager. Or sometimes the care managers themselves, they do have that experience. So they provide training in the office. A lot of the time we do have those type of devices in the office where we can provide that training to the caregivers. But it's not the same when you are actually doing hands-on with the clients. So we do have that support. Most of the agencies will have that support for somebody from the office to come to the house and provide that training on the spot for the caregivers.
Nice. Well, you mentioned something that I'm going to ask you to talk about briefly, and that is care management. Because some in-home care companies offer in-home care and care management, some don't. And then there are care managers that work with an in-home care company, and some that are private. They just have their own business as a direct care manager. But what the heck are they?
All right, so that's another terminology that can easily be confusing for our seniors. Most of the home care agencies, they will say we have a care manager, and that is across the board. They share that there is staffing managers, there is care managers, but there is a difference between care managers and geriatric care managers. And it's the type of involvement that they have, as well as it comes with the licensing that each agency may have. For example, if you go to a home care only provider, they have care managers, but these care managers is only focused on managing the caregivers. For example, relaying the information about the type of care that you need, letting you know about any schedule changes, basically the basic. There is also geriatric care managers, and some home cares may have both services, home care caregivers as well as care managers. And the care managers, when they have a geriatric care manager, the way that it might be easier for you to understand is like having a personal assistant to you. Basically, that's what it is. They do advocate for you in the field with the doctors. They help you find doctors. They help you manage your medication. And pretty much anything around the house. That is what a geriatric care manager do, because they do get involved with everything that you need, not just care, but it's a different service. It's built differently than the home care. And a geriatric care manager can be somebody that has, of course, a geriatric certificate, geriatric management certificate, somebody that has a certification in dementia, social workers, nurse, or somebody that has been working in the senior field for many years. But most of the time it's a social worker, somebody that has the dementia certification or the geriatric certification.
Do they accompany us to our doctor's appointments? Will they make doctor's appointments for us?
Correct. So they will help you manage the entire of scope when it comes to your health needs. They can directly talk to the doctors. They can help you schedule appointments, go with you to the appointments. And for example, if there are seniors in our city that may have their kids or their family out of the state or out of, they, for some reason, they're not able to go with you to the appointments, and they want to know what's going on with our seniors' health. So the geriatric care manager can also create a summary of the appointment and email it to the responsible
That's awesome.
parties.
That's awesome.
That is something that we normally do with all of our clients.
So how many people here attended last month's November seminar? A lot of you, okay, because we dug deep into what a professional fiduciary does, didn't we? So yet another layer of support that, does very different things than a professional fiduciary, but you can see that you don't need to go it alone here, ever, because there are so many people and resources that we can turn to for support. So thank you for touching on all that. Jill, I had a couple more questions for you, Missy. So, well, and I'm going to ask this for all of you, if there's anything I haven't asked you that you want to add before we open it up for all of your wonderful questions. But Jill, what are the top 2 things homeowners forget or fail to plan for?
So the top 2 things I have here, they're very similar. But the first one is allocating enough money for unforeseen or unknown issues. What I tell people all the time is we are not Superman. I don't have x-ray vision. I can't see everything within your home, meaning behind the walls, in the ceiling, in the foundation, things like that. But there are definitely things in those walls and spaces, electric, plumbing, there's damage sometimes that has happened, pest damage, foundation issues, leaks, things like that. So we need to put some money aside for those issues. Then there's another one. People don't typically allocate enough money for what we call known issues. So when you're in the trades, we expect to come across issues and problems, pest damage, water damage, asbestos, things like that. And we know to allocate for that. But again, a lot of homeowners don't realize that their house has it or that there is an issue because everything seems to be working perfectly fine. But when you go and do a remodel, change things around, pulling permits, you have to have everything up to today's code, everything that you're touching. So if you're doing electrical, that electrical going all the way back to the panel has to be current. And then sometimes the panel also needs to be adjusted or upgraded or changed out, which can cost, quite a bit of money.
And I have experienced with my clients that if they start doing a project either after they've moved into their new home or preparing to get their home ready for sale, that even if they're working on something in the bathroom, that contractor now has to bring other things up to speed that were not permitted. Is that true?
So again, typically it is what are you touching? Those things. However, sometimes in the code we have things that say, well, no matter what permit you're pulling, we're going to check on this. And a couple of those things are, we're going to check on the electrical panel. Panels are not allowed to be in closets anymore. They're not allowed to be in these enclosed spaces. So sometimes it's as quote unquote simple as moving it from inside a closet to outside the closet, just flipping it from one side of the wall in the closet to outside. Unfortunately, sometimes on the other side of a closet is something like a shower. Well, we can't obviously put, an electrical panel in a shower, so now we have to take it and move it to a new location. So there's a cost to both of those. The other one that you mentioned, the other one is toilets. So low flow. You have to have a low flow toilet. And so again, you might be doing something in the kitchen and the inspector's asking you about your toilet. And you're like, what does that have to do with a kitchen?
Right.
But it's these certain requirements that they're trying to get all of us up to speed, up to a certain level. So as we do one project, sometimes they trigger another.
Well, even like this was years and years and years ago before I was in the real estate arena, I couldn't figure out why is the guy remodeling my bathroom concerned that I don't have smoke detectors in the bedrooms? But it was, he says, nope, you've got to do that. It's like, but we're talking about the bathroom here.
So I mean,
know better
that's a big
now.
one. Even when I go and talk to people, I look at their smoke detectors. 9 times out of 10, the smoke detector is not in the ceiling, it's above the door, on the wall. And okay, maybe it's more convenient, I can reach it, I can get it with a ladder, but understand that smoke rises, so smoke has to rise to a level and fill that space and basically come back down to the level of where your smoke detector is. So having your smoke detector at the highest point is always the best. And I'll just point it out, say, if you do anything, please move that smoke detector from the wall to the ceiling.
Right. The other one's carbon monoxide devices. Yeah. And you need both of those, by the way. You only need 3 things to sell a home in the state of California. You need to have your smoke detectors in the right places. You need to have carbon monoxide devices in the right places, and you have to have your water heater properly strapped to code, depending on the size of your water heater. That's all you need to do. Everything else doesn't matter. It's all negotiable. So thank you for answering that. My other question is, can adding aging in place accommodations save us money? Because it sounds like it's going to cost me money.
So, in the grand scheme of things, is it going to cost money to do things? Yes.
Sure.
But part of it is if you're already remodeling, if you're already talking about doing an addition, if you're already going to do something, it does make sense to add a few of these features. As Rob and Eve spoke about, things like grab bars, widening the doorways, having more space actually within the bathroom or the kitchen, better accommodations, ramps, railings, lighting fixtures, things like that. So yes, it will cost more money to do those things. However, in the long term, you could be saving money because you're not having to go somewhere else. And again, if some of those features can just help you do your own things, your daily activities, then again, maybe you don't need the caregiver as much, maybe just an hour or two as opposed to all day.
Right. Okay. Did I fail to ask any of you any questions that you would like to share with the audience before we, Rob and Eve?
I'm glad, like you just mentioned, ramps, this feeling that we have to put an ugly metal ramp on a house. There's something called ramping, which means that you and your, perhaps your landscaper could work out a way to eliminate 2 or 3 steps up to your house by doing some creative work with the stone or with the brick, so that you create an entrance over 9 feet that gradually just moves into the house, either in the front of the house or the back of the house, so that it's fully accessible in each direction. So just thinking that you don't have to do something ugly, you can do something that's incorporated. The other thing I did think about is furnishings. I think that the most important issue is that we not fall and that we have really clear walkways wherever we are in the house. So you might be at a point that you want to rethink the layout of some of the rooms of your home and go with a little more careful, open placement, not have things crowded, lots of small antique pieces, little delicate wobbly tables. These things you might want to consider eliminating and just refreshing the house with pieces of furniture that are a little more solid, that would not tip over, that if you leaned on, they would not be wobbly. And make the seats in all the rooms easy for you to get in and out of, not too deep, not too low, with arms that are high enough so you can push yourself up. So just begin to think about refreshing some of the furnishings that you have and the layout in the room so that you've got full accessibility with that.
That's really good. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I am going to now ask, where's Kim? Kim's giving the raffle? Yeah, oh, there, you're way back there. I can see you now. Now I know what my mom used to say. She used to say, you're like a black, I can't see you against the light. That was me. Does anyone need a raffle ticket that didn't get one? I see a hand over there. I see 2 hands over there, 3 hands over there. All right. And then while we're getting our last tickets out, please attend to your evaluations. And you're still making me try to use my psychic abilities. I'm telling you, when you say, call me, I wanted to discuss something, or I want a consultation with one of these people, you say, call me, and you don't say who you are. I am not the great Karnak. So, while, are we, all right, Susan, good. So Kim is nice enough to bring, looks pretty fun. So why don't you tell people who you are, I haven't seen you. Introduce yourself, and then we'll pick the big winner. And then
Perfect. Hi, I'm Kim Falahati. I am, there's 3 people over here, Susan, that need tickets as well? Or maybe 1 lady. I'm Kim Falahati. I am the owner of Family Matters. We are your downsize and relocation specialist. We provide 8 different services: pack, move, junk, donate, declutter, sort, unpack, and host estate sales. It's a la carte or a full service. We just offer it all, so you have one company to call.
Okay, Susan.
And then for price, we have a bottle of wine, a beautiful cutting board, and some utensils for cheese. So you have a nice cheese and wine event.
Wow.
Fancy
All right.
schmancy.
Okay, we better get this show on the road, people. Where did my, oh. Okay, okay. Let's do this thing. Da, 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 da. So be thinking about your questions. All right, here we go.
Okay.
And the winner is here.
And the winner is the last,
Here, do it.
the last 3 numbers is 421. Is that yours? Oh, so close. 421. Oh, so close. Looks like the person left. I'm going to do another. Let me put my glasses. 446. 446. Oh, lady in the red was close.
446?
Oh, winner, winner.
Yeah? Is it 446? Wait a minute. Wait a minute here. 446. Yay! Thank you, Kim, for bringing that. Okay. Well, guess what? You know, we have a learning lab next week. It was going to be taking a deeper dive in in-home care, but nobody has signed up, so we're going to cancel it. And maybe it's just because of the holidays. So, reminder before we get going on your questions that next month, where are we meeting? Lafayette Library. We're back at the Lafayette Library where we were for the first 6.5 years, right? So we're going to be back at the Lafayette Library Community Center. Easy to get to, parking, there's covered parking, there's street parking. And so it will continue to be the first Wednesday of every month, always 10 to 11:30. Bring a friend. We just, we moved here because we needed a little bit more space sometimes because we had to turn away people 3 or 4 times last year. But we're going to just make it work. So, okay. What about, okay, evals, you're working on that. Questions? Who has a question for any of these wonderful people?
This is for David or Jonathan. Any of your volunteers, do you have anyone who signs?
Sign language. American Sign Language.
Yeah. You know, I honestly don't know because we have 200 volunteers. I don't know if I think I saw one person, but I don't know if what area they're in because of the whole county. So, yeah.
Maybe call. And what about Jonathan?
No, I don't think we have any of the caregivers that have that specific skill.
That would be important to learn, right?
And is that you're just gonna ask you again? Is that because this person needs care or?
Sometimes a ride or assistant. It's
see.
my brother, he's 92.
Okay, yeah, no. Currently, I don't remember any caregivers that may have that skill. But when it comes to care, of course, the caregivers will be able to help.
Okay, question. Yeah.
I was curious, what is a licensed handyman versus just a handyman?
They actually have gone through all of the requirements and they've taken an exam, a state exam. They're bonded, they're insured, and they're fully licensed so that you're dealing with a professional, just not some guy in a truck.
So it's really not a handyman that she's talking about. That is a general contractor. Yeah, they have to have a license. A normal handyman does not need to have a license, but they can only do projects. It was up to 500, but I think it's going up to 750
And there's some
next
things they can't do
year.
with electrical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But there are lots of licensed handymen. They're not trying to do large projects. They're not trying to take on whole
Right.
kitchen remodels, but they have large areas of expertise, and you're not taking on responsibility when you're hiring them.
right.
I can give
Yeah.
you some names.
Yeah. Questions? I see a hand back here.
Hi, thank you for putting this on. My mother's 100 and lives alone, takes care of everything, but she has macular degeneration and her eyesight is getting, worse and worse. So things like using the telephone, the remote, I keep buying more lighting for her. But what do you recommend for low vision situations?
I can answer that question. Well, before, when it comes, I'll go to well, there is a lot of devices right now. Like, for example, the Alexa has become very popular with seniors because they just can say, Alexa, call this person, Alexa, do this, what time it is. But other than that, there is not really that many gadgets or devices out there in the field that will help our senior population that has challenges like that right now, other than a specific person dedicated to help with their daily needs.
Well, there actually are a few things. There's the bigger phones, like the phones have the bigger dials for you. And the one thing I like for fall prevention is if you've got the money, those new fancy watches that they can detect if you fall and notify people when they fall.
Like the Apple Watches?
The Apple Watch does. I think mine does too. The Pixel Watch, it has fall detection. So those are kind of neat devices that are out there now.
Oh, do you recommend any particular kind of phone?
No, but there are services out there. I don't know. I've seen them at the senior fair where they have a whole bunch of them. It's not just one, but there's a whole bunch of different phones. And I've seen a vendor that actually just sells larger phones with big numbers on
Yeah.
them.
My mom had one. The numbers were like this big. It was like something in nursery school. It was awesome. It was awesome.
And there is just to follow that, there is also a pendant that is called the Life Alert. You have to pay a monthly membership, but it's similar to what it does, just detecting if there is any faults. And when you pay the membership, if, for example, the system detects that a client has fallen, they may call and say, would you like me to call 911? But that's basically all they do.
Yeah, that's not really what you.
That's okay. If if you remove a bathtub, if you're remodeling a bathroom and take out a tub, and that means you have no tubs in your house, how does that affect the resale of a house? Oh, you, yeah. Me, okay.
Well, I would, okay, this is just me. I would do it if that's what you need, I would do it, right? The next person, if they love your house, they can slap a tub back in. I will say that a lot of younger families want a tub to bathe the kids, right? So, sort of to me, every house should have one tub, but you're more important than the house. So, do what you need to do for the short term, and maybe long term, we worry about it later.
I'm going to follow up on that one too. I agree. What I tell clients is, what do you need now? However, let's not take over some of that space by making a closet bigger or doing something else with the space. We want to be able to put a tub back in if necessary. And yes, most bathrooms, well, we call it the hall bathroom. Those are typically the kids' bathrooms. There's certain heights for things in there, the sink height, things like that, and tubs. Whereas the ensuite for the parents' room, typically the countertops are higher. They have maybe soaking tubs or just a shower, things like that. But the biggest part is people think, if I take out this tub and I put in a smaller shower, then I can have a closet or something like that, but then you can't replace it. You can't put that tub back in. And so as long as it's a swap out, it's not that big of a deal.
That's good information. Any other? Oh,
Yes, hi, my name is Lisa Nennernan, and thank you so much for inviting me and letting me know about this seminar today. I'm in Oakland, so I don't ordinarily know about this. But it was a great panel. I'm so glad that I came, and I want to talk to several of you afterwards. But I have a nonprofit in Oakland I want to make sure you know about. ReCares, we recycle medical supplies and equipment. So if you have any wheelchairs, walkers, commodes, shower seats, stuff like that, so we can take that in and then issue it out to people that don't have enough money to buy it themselves or insurance doesn't cover it. We have a site in Oakland, San Francisco, and Marin. And people come from all over to bring us their stuff that, their father has died or they've gotten over the surgery that they had. They don't need it anymore. And it just gets recycled in and out. So I do have a couple of flyers. I didn't bring enough because I didn't have enough
send them
warning.
to me. Send them to me.
Okay, I can give a couple.
Where's Kim? Kim Falahati. Good to know. I'm making connections happen here. Yeah, because I just got rid of tons of medical things. So I'm also going to introduce you to somebody else later on. Any other questions before we wrap up?
So Dayna, I'm going to follow up just one little other issue about tubs, showers, those kinds of things. Okay, a lot of people asking for curbless showers these days. Curbless is lovely. However, when you think about it, what's happening is we're removing the curb. Okay, so it used to go up, the curb used to go up, and then once you're inside the shower, the floor pan actually slopes towards the drain, and the drain is at the floor level. Well, if we're removing that curb, we have to have the drain lower than floor level. Now we're talking about structure. Okay, we're accommodating the floor joists, we're removing, we're cutting, we're doing things, we're removing concrete if you have a slab, so we're getting into more construction. So in those particular cases, it does cost more to do that, but you reap the benefits of it. So don't think that a shower, a tub, and a curbless are all the same cost. They're very different. Okay.
Although when we did that for my mom, we had a wall moved, a door widened, and a curbless shower, and it was done in 2 weeks. And we brought her home.
I do want to say something about curbless showers,
then
though,
we're gonna
really
have to-
fast.
yeah.
And that is, that curb at the shower is the most dangerous place in your house. Because people, when they're accustomed to stepping over 2.5 inches every morning, no big deal, I can lift my leg, why should I change this? It's that morning when you lift your leg 2.25 inches. And that's where the falls happen. More falls happen in the bathroom. 60% of all of the emergency room visits that have to do with homes happen in the bathroom, which is a wild number, and it's usually right at the shower threshold. So seriously consider the investment that Jill is explaining. It's worth it in every way.
And it's so easy because, we took all the glass doors off, so it was literally almost a wet room. And then the next owner can just put the glass doors back in very easily. So anyway, there you go. I just want to give a big round of applause for these awesome humans. We appreciate all the information you shared, your time, your wisdom, and if there's anything in addition that you want to share with people, send it to me soft copy, and we can, like you said, we're creating some. We'll send it as an attachment to the follow-up email for you. So make sure you hand your completed evaluations. There's Joan. Joan's not going to let you get out of the door without handing her your flyer. And we'll see you in the new year back at the Lafayette Library. So in the meantime, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and just have a wonderful, wonderful season until I see you again.
And Dayna, we have, he's got his brochure here. It's out at the table. We've got our cards out there.
Yep.
Robin, Eve, and Jonathan, we've all got stuff out there.
Yeah. And then we've got the education partners there if you have any questions for them as well. So, all right, thanks. Yay!